Imagine this scenario because it happens to millions of Americans every single day and nobody talks about it. You're 35 years old. It's Monday morning. You just got your paycheck. You open the stub and you see that deduction, $400 automatically pulled from your paycheck before you even see it. It goes straight into your 401k. Your employer matches 3%. You feel responsible. You feel like you're doing the adult thing. Your parents told you this is how you retire. Your HR department showed you the PowerPoint with the compound interest graphs going up and to the right. You're maxing it out. You're putting in the full $23,000 a year because that's what smart people do. You feel a sense of pride. You are building your future. But here's what nobody told you. That money is gone. It's locked in a cage. You can't touch it for 30 years without paying a massive penalty. And in exchange for locking up your most productive earning year's capital, you're getting one of the worst investment vehicles ever designed. A tax trap wrapped in high fees, limited options, and a promise from the government that they definitely won't change the rules on you later. Fast forward 10 years. You're 45. You've been a good soldier. You've got $300,000 in that 401k. Then life happens. You lose your job. Your kid needs surgery. Your roof collapses. You need $50,000 immediately. You look at your 401k statement. It says $300,000 right there on the screen, but you can't access it. If you withdraw it, the IRS takes 10% as a penalty, then they take another 22 to 37% in income taxes. Your $50,000 withdrawal just cost you $65,000 of your account. You just paid a 30 to 47% fee to access your own money. You are sitting on a pile of wealth and you are financially helpless. This is the 401k trap. You were told it was the safe path. You were told it was the responsible path. But what you actually did was hand over control of your wealth to a system designed to extract fees from you for 40 years while eliminating your liquidity, limiting your investment options, and creating a tax bomb that will detonate the moment you retire. My name is Bobby, and I spend way too much time thinking about the financial myths that keep the middle class poor while making Wall Street and the government rich. If you're someone who is automatically maxing out your 401k every year because that's what you were told to do, or if you feel guilty every time you think about stopping those contributions, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up because today we're going to commit absolute heresy. We're going to talk about why the 401k is not a retirement plan. It's a wealth extraction system. We're going to look at the fee structure that quietly steals hundreds of thousands of dollars from you. We're going to talk about the tax lie that convinced you to defer taxes at your highest earning years only to pay them at potentially higher rates later. And we're going to discuss why taking control of your retirement outside the 401k might be the smartest and safest financial decision you ever make. Here's the thing about the 401k cult. It's not based on math, it's based on convenience and ignorance. The 401k was never designed to be a primary retirement vehicle. It was created in 1978 as a tax loophole for executives. Then corporations realized, wait, we can kill pensions, shift all the risk to employees, and make them think it's a benefit. So they did. They eliminated pensions. They hired consultants to create enrollment seminars. They brought in fund companies to pitch target date funds. And they convinced an entire generation that putting money into a tax-deferred account with limited options and high fees was the path to wealth. But let's actually look at what you're buying when you invest in a 401k. You are buying a promise that the tax rate will be lower when you retire, a promise that the funds inside the 401k will perform well, a promise that the government won't change the rules, a promise that you won't need that money before age 59 and a half. Every single one of those promises is a gamble, and every single one of those gambles has a historical track record of screwing people over. Let's start with the tax scam because this is the biggest lie. The pitch is simple. You put money into the 401k pre-tax. You save on taxes now, it grows tax deferred. Then you withdraw it in retirement when you're in a lower tax bracket. Sounds great, except it's based on a fairy tale. The fairy tale that you will be in a lower tax bracket when you retire. Let's think about this logically. Right now in 2025, we are near historically low tax rates. The top federal bracket is 37%. In the 1950s and 60s, the top rate was over 90%. In the 1970s, it was 70%. The current rates are set to expire in 2025 and revert to higher rates. We have a national debt of $35 trillion, $35 trillion. We have Social Security going bankrupt. We have Medicare going bankrupt. We have unfunded liabilities in the tens of trillions. Do you really think taxes are going down? The government has one move: raise taxes. And where do you think they're going to get that tax revenue? From the $30 trillion sitting in 401ks and IRAs. You didn't avoid taxes, you just delayed them. And you delayed them into an unknown future tax environment that is almost certainly going to be worse. You took a known tax rate today and traded it for an unknown and likely higher tax rate tomorrow. Congratulations, you just made a bet against yourself and the government is the house. But let's say I'm wrong. Let's say taxes stay the same. Even in that scenario, you haven't won, because while your money has been growing tax deferred, it's been getting eaten alive by fees. This is where the 401k industry makes its real money. Most people have no idea what they're paying in fees because the fees are hidden. They're baked into the expense ratios of the mutual funds. They're in the administrative costs. They're in the revenue sharing agreements between your employer and the fund company. The average 401k charges about 1% per year in total fees. That doesn't sound like much, 1%, but let's do the math. If you invest $500 a month for 30 years in a fund that returns 8% per year with zero fees, you end up with about $730,000. Now run the same scenario with a 1% annual fee. You end up with about $570,000. The fee just costs you $160,000. That's not a rounding error. That's a house. That's your kid's college tuition. That's 3 years of retirement income. And that's assuming only a 1% fee. Many 401k plans charge more. Some charge 1.5% or even 2% when you add up all the layers. Over a lifetime, the fees can consume 30 to 40% of your total returns. You are working for 40 years to make your fund manager rich. Now compare that to a self-directed brokerage account. You can buy an S&P 500 index fund for 0.3% per year. That's not 3%. That's 0.3%. The difference between 1% and 0.3% over 30 years is life-changing, but your 401k doesn't give you that option. You get a menu of 15 to 20 mediocre mutual funds with high expense ratios. You don't get to pick individual stocks. You don't get to invest in real estate. You don't get to buy Bitcoin or gold or international stocks outside of some watered-down international fund. You are locked into whatever your HR department negotiated with Fidelity or Vanguard or Schwab. You have the illusion of choice, but you're actually trapped in a walled garden designed to generate fees. Let's talk about the liquidity trap, because this is where the 401k becomes genuinely dangerous. When you put money into a 401k, it vanishes. It's no longer your money in any practical sense. It's the government's money that you're allowed to access later under their conditions with their penalties and their taxes. You cannot touch it before 59.5 without paying a 10% penalty plus ordinary income tax. That means if you're in a 24% tax bracket and you take an early withdrawal, you're paying 34% to access your own capital. Think about that. You're paying a 34% fee. If a bank charged you 34% interest, you would call it predatory lending. But when the government does it, we call it retirement planning. This creates a catastrophic vulnerability. Life is unpredictable. Medical emergencies happen. Job losses happen. Business opportunities appear. Family crises emerge. If all your wealth is locked inside a 401k, you have no flexibility. You have no options. You are financially fragile, pretending to be financially secure. Let me give you a real scenario. Two people, both 40 years old, both earn $100,000 a year. Person A maxes out their 401k. They put in $23,000 a year for 10 years. They have $300,000 in the 401k. Person B contributes only enough to get the employer match, let's say $6,000 a year. They take the remaining $17,000 and invest it in a taxable brokerage account in the same index funds. After 10 years, person B has about $80,000 in their 401k and $220,000 in their brokerage account. Now, both people lose their jobs. Person A looks at their 401k. They can't touch it without destroying 35% of it in taxes and penalties. They have no emergency fund because they were told to max the 401k first. They're in trouble. Person B liquidates part of their brokerage account. They pay long-term capital gains tax, maybe 15% only on the gains, not the principal. They can survive for 2 years without income. They can wait for the right job. They can even start a business. Who is actually secure? The person with $300,000 they can't access, or the person with $300,000 they can access? Person B is wealthier in every way that matters. They have options. They have time. They have control. This is the core philosophical problem with the 401k. It prioritizes future security over present flexibility, but future security is a mirage if you can't survive the present. The 401k industrial complex has convinced people that locking away money for 30 years is safety, but it's the opposite. It's putting all your survival tools in a safe that you can't open until you're old. What good is a life raft that you can only use after the ship has already sunk? The truly wealthy don't think this way. They prioritize liquidity. They keep their capital accessible. They use debt and leverage and tax strategies to defer taxes while maintaining control. The 401k is a product designed for people who don't understand wealth. It's a set it and forget it box for financial children. If you want to be financially adult, you need to take control of your own capital. Now let's talk about the employer match, because this is the only argument that the 401k defenders have left. They say, Bobby, even if everything you're saying is true, the employer match is free money. You have to take the free money. And I agree, kind of. The employer match is the only part of the 401k that makes mathematical sense. If your employer gives you a 50% match on the first 6% of your salary, that's an immediate 50% return. You can't beat that. So here's what you do. You contribute exactly enough to get the full match, not a dollar more. If the match is 3%, you contribute 3%. If the match is 6%, you contribute 6%. You take the free money, then you stop. Every additional dollar you put into the 401k beyond the match is a dollar you're choosing to lock away in a high-fee, low-flexibility, tax-deferred trap. That additional dollar should go into a taxable brokerage account where you have full control, low fees, and access to better investment options. But even the employer match has a dirty secret. It vests over time. Most companies have a vesting schedule. You don't actually own the employer match until you've been there for 3 or 4 or 5 years. If you leave the company before that, you lose it. The average worker stays at a job for 4 years. That means millions of people are contributing to 401ks to get a match they never fully receive. The match is bait. It's designed to keep you at the company. It's golden handcuffs. The company isn't giving you free money out of generosity. They're buying your loyalty. They're keeping you from leaving for a better opportunity because you don't want to lose that unvested match. You are trading career flexibility for a few $1,000s a year that you might not even get. Let's talk about what happens when you actually retire, because this is where the 401k truly reveals itself as a scam. You're 65 years old. You've been a good soldier. You've put money into your 401k for 35 years. You have $1.5 million in there. Congratulations. Now what? You have to start taking required minimum distributions at age 73. The government forces you to withdraw money whether you need it or not. Why? Because they want their tax money. They gave you a tax deferral for 35 years and now they're collecting. You have to withdraw about 4% per year starting at 73. That's $60,000 a year from your $1.5 million account. That $60,000 is taxed as ordinary income. If you're also collecting Social Security, that pushes you into a higher tax bracket. You might be paying 22% or 24% or even 32% on that withdrawal. So your $60,000 withdrawal becomes $40,000 after taxes. But wait, it gets worse. Those required minimum distributions can also cause up to 85% of your Social Security to become taxable. Before the 401k distribution, maybe only 50% of your Social Security was taxed. Now it's 85%. The 401k withdrawal just created a tax torpedo that blew up your Social Security. You're getting taxed twice. This is called the tax torpedo, and it's a real phenomenon that destroys retirees. Meanwhile, let's look at the person who invested in a taxable brokerage account. They own index funds. They've held them for 30 years. The funds have grown. When they retire, they can sell shares and pay long-term capital gains tax, 15% or 20% depending on income. But here's the key. They only pay tax on the gains, not the full amount. Del, farze shelf. Bekalting, 13% or Return directly Delta daily fa dog team centi following not the full amount. If they invested $500,000 and it grew to $1.5 million, they only pay capital gains tax on the $1 million gain. The original $500,000 comes out tax-free. Compare that to the 401k where every single dollar you withdraw is taxed as ordinary income. The 401k person is paying tax on contributions and growth. The brokerage person is only paying tax on growth. Over a 30-year retirement, this difference is hundreds of thousands of dollars. The person who avoided the 401k ends up richer after taxes, even though they didn't get the upfront tax deduction. Now, let's address the psychological trap, because this is what really keeps people imprisoned in the 401k system. We've been conditioned to believe that retirement saving must be painful. It must be automatic. It must be locked away where we can't touch it because we don't trust ourselves. The 401k is designed around the idea that you are financially incompetent, that if you had access to your money, you would blow it on cars and vacations. So the system treats you like a child. It takes your money before you see it. It locks it in a box. It tells you that you'll thank them later. But this is incredibly insulting and it's mathematically wrong. The disciplined investor doesn't need a cage. They need a strategy. If you're watching this video, if you're thinking critically about your finances, you are not the person who needs their money locked away. You are capable of managing your own capital. You are capable of making intelligent investment decisions. The 401k system exists for people who aren't paying attention. It's financial autopilot for people who don't want to think. But autopilot always comes at a cost. Here's what that cost looks like in real terms. Let's say you're 30 years old. You make $80,000 a year. You max out your 401k at $23,000 per year. You do this for 35 years until you're 65. Assume an 8% return. You'll have about $4.7 million in your 401k. Sounds incredible. Now, let's run the alternative scenario. You contribute only $6,000 to get the employer match. You invest the remaining $17,000 per year into a taxable brokerage account. Same 8% return. After 35 years, you have about $1.2 million in the 401k and $3.4 million in the brokerage account. Total is $4.6 million, almost identical to the 401k only strategy. But here's the difference. The brokerage account has been accessible the entire time. You could have used it for emergencies. You could have used it to start a business. You could have used it to buy real estate. You had options for 35 years. The 401k person had no options. They were locked in. Now, at retirement, the 401k person withdraws money and pays ordinary income tax on every dollar. Let's say 24%. Their $4.7 million is really $3.6 million after tax. The brokerage person pays long-term capital gains at 15% on only the growth. Their $3.4 million in the brokerage account has maybe $1.5 million in gains. They pay $225,000 in taxes. Their after-tax wealth is $3.2 million in the brokerage account, plus about $900,000 after tax from the 401k. Total after-tax wealth is $4.1 million. The 401k only person has $3.6 million. The split strategy person has $4.1 million, and they had liquidity for 35 years. They are wealthier and they were safer the entire time. This is the math that financial advisors don't show you because they make money from managing your 401k. Let's also talk about what happens when the government changes the rules, because they will. The 401k is a government creation. It exists because the tax code allows it. The tax code changes constantly. In the 1980s, you could contribute unlimited amounts to an IRA. Then they capped it. In the 2000s, required minimum distributions started at 70.5. Now it's 73. It will probably be 75 soon. The government keeps moving the goalposts. Right now, there is serious discussion in Washington about capping 401k balances. Some proposals suggest that once your 401k hits $10 million, you can't contribute anymore. Other proposals suggest taxing 401k balances over a certain amount. These aren't conspiracy theories. These are actual legislative proposals. The government sees $30 trillion sitting in retirement accounts and they see a piggy bank. You are trusting that in 30 years, the government will honor the deal. But governments don't honor deals. They change them whenever it's politically convenient. You are making a bet that the rules won't change. That's a terrible bet. Meanwhile, money in a taxable brokerage account is yours. It's not in a special government-sanctioned wrapper. It's just your property. The government can raise capital gains taxes, sure, but they can't retroactively change the rules on money you already withdrew. They can't force you to take distributions. They can't penalize you for accessing your own money. You have infinitely more control. This is why the ultra-wealthy don't use 401ks. They use trusts. They use LLCs, they use real estate, they use life insurance policies. They use strategies that give them control and flexibility. The 401k is a product for the middle class. It's a way to keep your money locked up and predictable so the government knows exactly where to find it when they need revenue. Now, I can already hear the objections. Bobby, you're being paranoid. Bobby, the 401k has worked for millions of people. Bobby, what about compound interest and tax deferral? Let me address these one by one. First, I'm not being paranoid. I'm reading history. Every government in history has eventually raided retirement accounts when they got desperate. It happened in Poland. It happened in Argentina. It happened in Ireland. The US is not immune. We are $35 trillion in debt. Something has to give. Second, yes, the 401k has worked for some people. Specifically, it worked for people who retired in the 1990s and 2000s when tax rates were higher during their working years and lower in retirement. That era is over. We are in a low tax environment now. Future retirees are going to get destroyed. And third, compound interest works in a taxable account too. You don't need a 401k to get compound growth. You just need to not sell. If you buy an index fund and hold it for 30 years in a brokerage account, it compounds just fine. The tax deferral is not some magical wealth multiplier, it's a delay. And delays are only valuable if the future tax rate is lower. I'm betting it won't be, so here's the action plan. If you're currently maxing out your 401k, stop immediately. Reduce your contribution to whatever gets you the full employer match. Take everything else and open a taxable brokerage account at Vanguard or Fidelity or Schwab. Set up an automatic monthly transfer. Invest in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund or a total stock market fund. Do this every single month. In 12 months, look at your brokerage account balance. You will see real money that you can actually access. You will feel the psychological shift from being trapped to being in control. In 10 years, compare the after-tax value of your brokerage account growth to the theoretical tax savings from the 401k. You will see that you made the right decision. More importantly, if an emergency happens, if an opportunity appears, if life throws you a curveball, you will have liquid capital to handle it. You won't be house rich and cash poor. You won't be retirement rich and life poor. You will be actually wealthy, which means having resources available when you need them, not when the government says you can have them. The 401k is not a retirement plan. It's a tax collection mechanism disguised as a benefit. It's a way to keep the middle class predictable and extractable. The truly wealthy don't play this game. They keep control of their capital. They pay taxes strategically. They maintain liquidity. They use leverage. If you want to build real wealth, you have to stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like an owner. Owners don't defer taxes into an unknown future. They pay taxes strategically in the present. Owners don't lock up capital in cages. They deploy capital into opportunities. Owners don't follow the herd into 401ks because HR said so. They make decisions based on math, not tradition. The 401k is a tradition. It's a very profitable tradition for Wall Street and the government, but it's a terrible tradition for you. If this video made you rethink your 401k contributions, share it with someone who is blindly maxing out their retirement account. Help them see the trap. Help them take control. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Hit like if you're redirecting that extra 401k money into a brokerage account starting today. Comment I'm taking control if you're done being a financial child. Subscribe because Wall Street doesn't want you watching these videos.